All right, so today, in getting preparation for your final project, I want to talk about multi-dimensional arrays, and I think we did this really quickly last quarter, probably 30 seconds worth last quarter. But so we're going to go over this. Multi-dimensional arrays, especially double arrays, which is what I call them, mean they have two dimensions. So we have when you think of a screen, for instance, you have X and Y coordinates on a screen. So this gets back to geometry. And in gaming and everything else, we deal with arrays for a flat game anyway. It's a two-dimensional array that holds all the pixels on the screen. So if we want to access a particular point, we go to an X coordinate and a Y coordinate, and that gives us the point on the screen. So double arrays like this are used a lot. When you get into three-dimensional games, then we're into a lot more dimensions. And when you get into theoretical math, they have 4 and 5 and 10-dimensional arrays. It's just really difficult to understand at that point. But for the practical purposes, double arrays are used a lot. And so in your final assignment, creating this word search program, the best way to do this is by using a double array. So a double array is just an array containing arrays. Remember that an array could have anything in it, right? I could create an array that has these numbers in it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And I can put strings and numbers and objects. Remember when we did our jukebox, we put an array of song objects, right? So an array can hold anything in its position, in its cell. I like to call them cells. So in a two-dimensional array, it's like, remember when I introduced arrays initially, we did this in Excel, and we talked about an array being a column of places to hold stuff. In a two-dimensional array, it's like the entire spreadsheet. Okay, I've got columns of data, and I've got rows of data. And if we create this correctly, I can identify which cell this is. So if I had if you tried to describe this to somebody, what would you call this cell? B4, right? You tell it the column it's in and the row that it's in. Okay? And so we're going to access our arrays, we're going to give it a row and a column to get that data back, or to store stuff in that cell. So the idea is that for each position, I'm going to create a 5x5 array here. So I need to have an array to hold all of the arrays. So I have an outer array, and each one of these elements here is going to be converted into another array. So each element has its own array in it. So let's do that in Ruby. Let's create a new file. We'll call it double arrays. And we'll call it cells. And so that would create an array, right? If I want to have each element in that be another array, I can create the first element in that is going to be an array containing more elements. So I'm going to put an A here, and a B here, and a C here, and a D here, and an E here. All right, so if I were to look at what is, first of all, what type of data is cell? It's an array, all right? What type of data is cell sub 0? An array. It's still an array, right? Now, to get down to the next level, since this is an array, right? This entire thing, I've indexed it. That gives me this element, right? So that's an entire array by itself. So if I want to get at the first element in that object, how do I do that? I just add another index and I say sub-0, right? So what will this give me back? A string. Very good. So if I were to put this, I would get what value? Thank you. There we go. So I get the letter A back. What if I wanted the letter C back? Very good. So this is, now I get the letter C back. So the second index is the column. The first index is the row. So if I want to add another row to this, I'm going to add another, let's see, F, G, H, I, J. Now I have two rows. So how would I access to get the letter H? Nope. 1, 2. Okay, 1, 2. All right. So this is cell sub 1 is what type of value? An array. So I can index that array again, and I go counting from 0 again. 0, 1, 2. So that should give me an H. Yay, look at that. So I can continue on with this and have a 5 by 5 little array. J, K, L, M, N, O. P, and there's easier ways to do this, of course, but Q, R, S, T, and a final one is going to be T, and Y. All right, so tell me what the coordinates of my X is misspelled. My misspelled X. All right, so I did. That's true. So how do I get? What is the coordinates of the letter R? 4? 3, 2, right? We start at 0 again. So 3, 2. Right. It is like Battleship, right, Zach? Yeah, very good. And that was one of the assignments. I'm going to do that, but I just didn't get a chance. No. Yeah, 5 by 5, yeah. All right, so that lets me access the value. Now, write the equation to change the letter O to a 1. Not the string 1, just the value 1. What would that be? In my double array, I want to change the letter O. Say it again. 2, 4 equals 1. No, I want to hear what you say. Cells, what? Sub 2, sub 4 equals 1. All right? So now let's put that out and see if it actually changed. And it did. Look at that. Isn't that cool? So we can access the values or set the values just like we did normal arrays. Another, yeah. Have 3 arrays. That's interesting. everybody have this code on their screen? All right, so I want you to write a method that will take this array and print it to the screen just like it is. I want it to print kind of like this, with the A's, A, B, C, D across, and the F, K, P, U down. So I'm going to see a block of letters on the screen. All right? So I'll pause and let you guys do that. All right, so I gave you lots of time to do that, except on the video. So the what I want is to print this double array. This is a double array into something that looks like this. All right, so let's start and see what we get. So if I were to print out something from an array, what typically would I start with? Cells.each, right? Cells is an array. I can call the each method on it, and we need to have something. And what is each of these things? A row. Okay, so I'm going to call this a row. All right, that just kind of makes sense, right? All right, you with me so far? That's about as far as you got. So if I now just say puts a row, let's see what happens, right? So it prints it all down the side, right? Because printing an array automatically puts a, it's starting here. Let's take out my other puts so we don't confuse ourselves here. No, that's all right. Nah, we want to see it. All right, so it prints it with a carriage return, prints each one, and shoves it down the side. So that's not quite what I want. So I want to go through each row now. Now, there's lots of ways to do it, and we'll simplify it in a minute. But I want you to see how this works. Since row is what type of an array it's an array. What type of object is it? It's an array. I can call the each method on it, right? And what would that be? A column. All right? I'm going to call it a column. And so I want to, it's an element. I want to print each one of them, and let's print them using the print instead of the puts. Why? So I don't get the carriage return. All right, so let's see what happens now. All right, so now we got them all on one line. So where would I add the carriage return? At the end of each row, right? I finish my row printing. At the end of that, I do a puts. All right, so let's see what happens. Bah, bada boom, bada bing. Look at that. Is that sweet? Now that's close. Yeah, except for that, right? So now I want a space between each of these. So how do I do that? Split? No. I can add a space right here, right? Add just a space. Look at that. What is wrong with that? It has a 1 in mine, so I can't add a string to a 1, right? Because at some point in this, as it's printing it out, it came up to my 1, right? Which I converted here. All right, so I can't do it that way. So what's the way to fix that? No, you can't change the data. Interpolation, there you go. So we're going to do this, put a string and print the call in here and add a space inside of that. And I think that's bada boom, bada bing. That will convert the number into a string automatically for me. It actually calls the 2s method on whatever that object is, by the way. So there I've got a nice little array. Isn't that cool? Everybody with me on what I did there? Any questions?
Yeah,
good time to ask questions. All right, so let's simplify this. Let's let's do something else. Cells.each do, and for every row, I want to do something. Now, a row is what type of data? An array, so I can do array type stuff with it. What is an array method that I can call that converts it into a string delimited by something? Not split. That goes the other way. It's the opposite of split. What? Join. There you go. Join. So if I say puts row dot join, and I tell it that I want to have a space in between each element. Look at that. Is that great? I got an error because I have cells. There goes my magic. Look at that. So I've made my code a lot simpler in this case. Isn't that cool? Isn't that easier? So one more thing. How would I use this kind of a construct now? See, I've written some code. This is still useful for other reasons. For printing it out, this is one of your methods of your final.
What does the join do again? I don't use it too often.
It takes an array and takes every element and creates a string out of it with this delimiter in between it.
Oh.
So
okay,
if I
okay.
put a comma here and run it, I'll have commas between each one of them.
I see. All right. Okay, I get it.
Okay?
Cool.
So there's how would I create a 10 by 10 array? Filled with what? Zeros. Programmatically. I don't want to just... Okay, 10 dot times do. We could do that. But I would prefer, because the rest of your program is going to use this kind of a construct, let's use this structure here. All right, so I want to do this 10 times. Let's see, I'm confusing myself now. I want to use this structure, but I don't want to. So let's what I want to do, let's create the cells equals an array of I'm not going to be able to do it that way. All right, so I'm hurting my brain here. So let's do it this way. Let's do 10 times do, and I'm going to I need to have something, so this is my, we'll call it box. All right, so we're going to have a box array. So I want to fill up the box with the number 0 on every spot. So what would the first row be? What do I have to do for my first row? But what do I have to create? Remember up here, I have to create an array of a bunch of zeros, right? So I need to have my box sub. Well, all right.
Oh wait, index or something.
I need, right? I need a counter. So we need a row counter. So box sub row, an empty array. All right, that gives me an empty array. And then I have to fill that array with a bunch of zeros, right? So I need to do it again, 10 dot times do.
Now you lost me. Yeah, it's gonna be like this.
Yeah, it's complicated. All right, so for each element in this box sub row, because this is an array, I can just push on a 0, right? Let's do it that way. That should work. So let's copy my nifty little method down here and call it box. And I get an error. Look at that. Nice.
Whoa. Wow. That's so weird.
Is that complicated or what? Wrong number of arguments. So I have a problem here, and we're out of time.
You forgot the box sub row. So when you said it, you forgot the post or the post. Yeah. Second do.
Yep. Yep. It already was an array, so I'm just stuffing it in there. So there we go. That's what I got.
Do something like the matrix.
So if I were to print that out, I could say puts box.inspect, and we should be able to see that it is, in fact, a double array. See that? I've got an array for the first element, an array for the second element, an array for the third element, etc. All right, so there we confused you really good there. So that created a space of 10 by 10 that I could do something with. I could then change values at each position or whatever I wanted to do there. Wow, that got interesting. Any questions on that? Is that confusing to you? Yeah, all right.
That was cool.
Play with that one a little bit. All right, no questions? We're out of time anyway, so we'll do some more double array stuff.